All right. Hey, everybody. This is Tracy Stewart with Girl Scouts Spirit of Nebraska. I am a program specialist and I work out of our Lincoln, Nebraska office. And I'm super excited because I have one of my literal BFFs. Margie is probably my, I don't want to say oldest friend, but she is probably the friend that I've had the longest because literally we've been friends since kindergarten. So that's pretty cool. But before we jump into our topic today, I just want to wish everybody well. Hope you're staying safe and healthy and getting outside and enjoying some fresh air. So this is our Girl Scouts at Home segment, and we're going to focus on, well, I just titled it Being a Serial Entrepreneur, because when I think of my friend Margie, that's kind of what I think she is, a serial entrepreneur. Even growing up, she's just always been a super hard worker. And as an adult, she she's a boss. That's really what she is to me. She is a boss lady. She has created, started, managed 5 different businesses. So we're going to jump in, and I'm just going to have my good friend Margie Merchant. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Talk to the people, Margie.
Talk to the people. Let's do this. Hi, everyone. I am Margie Merchant. I live in Lincoln. Most of my businesses are based out of Lincoln. However, I kind of travel the Midwest area of Nebraska for some of the things that I do. I currently own a wedding planning business. My husband and I together own a handyman and janitorial cleaning service that's commercial cleaning business. In the past, I've owned a transportation industry. I've been in the transportation industry. And I've also, done daycare as well as some bookkeeping services on the side. So that is a nutshell of what I do. I have a family. I have 2 older children, a younger one, and a grandbaby. But yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. So Margie, tell us why being an entrepreneur is so important to you.
Being an entrepreneur, I didn't realize how important it was to me until I jumped in. I worked in the corporate world. I worked in private sectors, and I found that for me, I had good and bad with both in terms of I would learn what I wouldn't do as a business owner. I would learn things that I would do, what works, what I saw, what I felt like, what worked within businesses. When I started, daycare was my launching point, actually, of starting my own business. And so then I was able to learn, you have to learn all facets of it. And even though daycare doesn't seem, sometimes it gets a bad rap that it doesn't, appear to be a business, because I've heard that from people. Oh, it's just taking care of kids. No, it really isn't. It is, you have to learn how to communicate with others. You need to learn the business side of it, expenses, actually holding your own, because there are times where you have to set rules and you have to stick to those rules. Because if you don't stick to rules, people like to bend them a little bit. And so, and it's hard because it's personal. With daycare, it's very personal. It's with their children, which is the reason sometimes of their being. And so, you have to really learn how to manage all facets of that and maintaining your business, because ultimately you have to also think about financially, is this a good fit for you? For me, it was daycare. So it was in my home. So how is this affecting my home, my family?
Yeah, definitely.
But as far as like launching points for businesses, for me, when it comes to financially launching them, if I can't fund it out of pocket, then I'm not starting it. And so, and I should back up a little. When we had the commercial cleaning business, that start, the reason for that start was a brainstorm of how am I going to pay for my kids' extracurricular activities. They were in club sports.
Yep.
They were in baseball, select baseball. And we all know that those things cost money. And so how am I going to contribute to the family income and not go too far out of pocket? So what can I develop? What can we do that is outside of my regular job, my 40 to 45 hour a week job, to supplement that so that we can pay for those things and not have it affect our family life. And that's where the cleaning business started. I can do that at night, and we could fund it easily with supplies. It wasn't a big out of pocket to begin with, and you can build. What's nice is you can build, and so then we started small, and then we grew and grew and grew and got bigger.
Yeah. So just to clarify then, was the commercial cleaning business your first business, or was the daycare?
Because then I jumped into daycare and wasn't too far after that. So yeah, my apologies. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
As far as learning the business, real business side, I felt like it was a lot of daycare too.
Awesome. So you said that you fund your businesses out of pocket. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Like, with the cleaning business, it had to deal with supplies. And so vacuums, carts, all the cleaning supplies. There was a little bit of a startup there. And then also making sure that you're legally set. So, how are you going to, what's the legal entity of your business? And so making sure that it wasn't a partnership at the time. So we want to make sure that every business starts, you want to make sure that you're legally, if things were to happen later that maybe wasn't as positive as in the beginning, you want to make sure that each party is covered. So legally, we went that route, insurance, all of those things, making sure that we're, bonded and insured so that when commercial clients look at us, we, have the proper backing if anything should happen. So in terms of cost-wise there, we have legal costs to set up a business, and then supply costs. As far as my husband's handyman business, he had a lot of the tools to start off with before we even got there. We did a complete remodel on our home, and so we had that already. There again, it was legal and insurance costs.
So not knowing this side of things, can you give us just kind of a ballpark sort of estimate on how much that was for your startup for the cleaning or the daycare or whatever?
The cleaning business, I would say that at the time, I think we had one client, so we didn't have to have multiple vacuums and that sort of a thing. I would say at the very initial beginning, I would say that the startup was about $2,000 to $3,000.
Okay, so really not too bad, really.
Terrible. Yeah, I mean, we're not talking $100,000 or anything like that. It was, and some things we just did without for a while. We didn't jump into getting big floor cleaners that are, up to $2,000 to $4,000. We eventually got there, but we also kind of stayed within what we could handle at the time because both of us were working full-time jobs.
Right. So when you're thinking about that, I mean, that's good. To me, that's kind of like good advice too, because, when you're thinking about starting up a business, like in your case, if I'm understanding correctly, you're sort of thinking, okay, here's a need that our family has, brainstorming, what can we do? in like our off hours, to
Mhm.
be able to help supplement some family expenses, right? And then thinking
Exactly.
about kind of that time frame, you're in Jeff's skill sets, and then in terms of the cost factor, what's kind of, and then what you said is you did without for some things, eventually got there. But when you're thinking about funding businesses, it's kind of like, okay, what are our initial priorities? What can we afford? And then how do you build your business based on those types of things? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, that's
And that would
that's
be
awesome.
the same. Yeah, that would be the same with like the handy bin business, and then also moving into wedding planning.
Mm-hmm.
I did the same thing. Wedding planning. What I've found over the years is what I'm really good at. And
Mm-hmm.
then, when you experience it, we had the oldest daughter get married. And during that time, it's like, wow, I think I can be good at this. I'm good at organization.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One of my previous jobs was like a project manager. And so I figured, hey, I'm really good at project management. I can just swing that into the wedding industry and see if that works. However, with the wedding industry, I chose to work it for a year before I jumped in. And that's mainly because I knew somebody in the industry, and granted, I didn't have to know someone. I could have just worked for anybody, but I asked. I said, "Hey, I'd love to see what it's like on the other side." I was a mother of the bride, so it's different
Right.
to know the wedding industry from that angle, and I wanted to know on the vendor angle. And I also needed to work lots of weekends because is that something that I want to do, as a business? Do I want to
Mm-hmm.
work 20 to 30 weekends a year?
Mm-hmm.
That means I miss lots of things. So I did that for a year before even deciding to jump in because I'm a pretty logical person. And so I wanted
Right.
to make sure that I was in the right mind, just
Right.
not to go, oh, I'm going to do it because I think I'm good at it. I'm going to make sure that that's the right fit.
So when you were thinking about that, so after Sam's wedding, and you were thinking about, do I want to be a wedding planner? Essentially, you sought out like other wedding planners. Is that what you sought out, and you for other people in the
Yes.
industry?
I knew I had used to work with a gal at a previous job, and she started her own business, and she was more into floral and production of a wedding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out to her, and I kind of picked her brain a little bit on learning on what the need was in Lincoln. I did my research and learned that there's a lot of wedding planners in Omaha, but there was a few in Lincoln. Uh, and I did not want to do wedding planning on the side. That was something that I found that there were some of those here in Lincoln, but if you're in the industry and know quite a bit about it, it's tough to do it on the side. It
Uh-huh.
requires a lot of time.
Right.
So, my goal was to learn if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this with all, I'm going to jump in completely. And this is going to be a full-time type of position. I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
know what the industry within Lincoln could handle. If, was it saturated enough? Was there a need? And so when I did my research, I found that there was a need. I found that, you know, um, you could definitely work your way into it. But you have to, there's a lot to learn because there's
Yeah.
a lot to it.
Right. Yes. I
Yeah.
can only imagine. Um, so, I mean, as somebody that has had 5 businesses, what's been your favorite? Because and what's
Wedding
cool too
planning
is
right
that
now,
your businesses have been pretty different,
very different.
too. So, what's been kind of your favorite venture?
wedding planning is. It is what I'm naturally good at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm naturally good at putting chaos into order. Um, I
And
I'm
that
the,
is definitely a skill.
it is, and then learning the how to calmly, you know, I feel that I naturally have an ability to calm people down,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of any situation. Um, I've had situations where a band decided the day of that they weren't going to come because of weather.
Oh
And
my
also the same day, transportation wasn't able to come because of weather. So in a matter of an hour to 2 hours, I had to find new music for the reception and new transportation that needed to arrive in 4 hours.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, so it's one of those things that I kind of thrive on it, because it's um I do feel like I'm probably a little bit ADHD, and so I've never been diagnosed, but my mind
Self-diagnosed.
goes, my mind goes 100 miles an hour, and I know that about
Yep.
myself. And I love that every single wedding is different. Every single one of them is different, that I'm going to be able to use different parts of my brain
Mm-hmm.
to diagnose and figure out what's the best way to make sure that this goes off without a hitch, that the guest gets the best experience. So yeah,
I love that you
this
said
is what I love.
diagnose. I love that you said you're diagnosing weddings. I mean, it makes sense. Um, so let's talk a little bit about employees,
Sure.
because some of your businesses, it's basically just been like you and Jeff,
Right.
and others you've had other employees. So let's talk about that. What's that like to have employees, and what do you look for, and what are some of the best sort of managerial practices that you've learned over the years?
Um, Currently, we have employees that are taking care of a large commercial building back in my hometown. And so uh, we've had quite a few employees that have gone through that over the last, we've been there for 5 years now. I think it's been five, I kind of forget. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, as far as employees, we are caretakers. And so we understand that in the commercial cleaning world, um, it's a part-time business, so you don't get a lot of benefits. And
Right.
so um, we like to pay our people more than what minimum wage is.
Mm-hmm.
We like to reward them more, because it's an industry where you can easily have turnover, which is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have to make sure that you're taking care of those that are loyal to you. Um,
Mm. That's
it's
good.
it's you have to make sure that you know we're all on the same page. It's constant touch points. We do have a supervisor that is there every single night, so that doesn't mean that we have to be there every
Mm-hmm.
single night, in which we aren't. But we always have to make sure that, is everybody good? Especially now with COVID, we have
Right.
to really make sure that people feel safe. We
Yep.
have to make sure that our practices are safe amongst each other. And so we haven't had to change too much from our perspective, because we actually give our employees flexibility in terms of when they come into, they're given a time range. So from
Mm-hmm.
5 to 6, you need to arrive to work. So if
Mm-hmm.
you have a full-time job and you don't get off work till 5. And if you decide to come at 6 o'clock, you want to go home and eat, that's fine. If you want to come right away at 5:10, you can come at 5:10.
Right.
We are and flexibility is really important too.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this time frame to get the job done, and this is how many hours it takes to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
If it goes over, okay, if it's short, okay too. If it's too short, I'm gonna see if the quality is done well.
Right. Yeah.
So you always have to make sure, because ultimately the client is who we also need to impress upon, make sure that they're
Mhm.
happy with their service.
Mhm.
Um, Finding employees can be tough. Right now, we're actually looking for employees, and we're having a tough time. We ran an ad in the local paper, which that we found right now is the only uh, the only effective way. We've tried the social media route. For us,
Mhm.
it doesn't work that way. It didn't. It's not working. So
Yeah.
luckily, advertising in a small local paper is super cheap, whereas here in Lincoln, it's
Mhm.
not. It wasn't cost effective. We ran, I think, one ad here, and it was over $400.
Oh my goodness.
And in Aurora, it was 14.
Oh my. Yeah, that's quite a difference.
Yeah,
414.
and
Yeah.
so we've had a tough time. Actually, honestly, the last year and a half, we've
Mhm.
had a tough time finding a fit, and we're really picky because they have to work independently. And so once we've trained them, we have to, be comfortable with them working independently. We have to have people that show up to work. That's what,
Yep.
when you work at night, you have to make sure that they're coming and doing what they're supposed to do. So
Mhm.
it can be difficult to find them. And what we found though is if we take the time to find the right people and the right fit, then that will reward us later with less turnover.
Right. Yeah, that's good stuff. So, as far as any any other advice that you would give women or girls who are thinking about becoming business owners? I mean, you
You
shared a
know,
lot of good
yes,
nuggets.
I have a lot of advice for that, and mainly because um, uh, I get a lot of emails and inquiries through my website, um, of people that have just graduated from college and they want to start their own business and they want to be a wedding planner. And they um, unfortunately, I feel like sometimes they want me to give up all the information. So that, and quite frankly, I'm old school. You got to go out there and find it yourself. You have to
Hmm.
research it, because if people are handing it to you, you don't know it inside and out.
Right.
And so when I started this industry, when I started in this, in this industry and wanted to be a wedding planner, I just didn't research Lincoln and Omaha. I researched the West Coast. I researched the East Coast. What are those planners doing?
Hmm.
Um, we have so much information at our fingertips to understand what planners do. There are lots of resources out there that are free. You just have to read it. You have to
Hmm.
read it and dig for it. Um, I did reach out to some planners in the area and asked if they'd like to sit down and have coffee. And some said yes, and some were too busy, which I completely understand now
Hmm.
because I'm busy as
Right.
well.
Right.
And so, but I also feel like, you want to share to be able to, I am a big believer of community, and I'm a big believer of there is enough work to go around. Even during COVID, there's enough work.
Hmm.
I have constantly got people that have come in that now want the help more than ever because
Hmm.
of the uncertain times. So they, they want to be able to lean on someone else to help them through this process. And so for me, it's a go out there and research it. Go out there, work it in maybe not necessarily a wedding planning um, job, but a caterer. There's tons
Hmm.
of catering, there's florists, there's production companies. There's lots of places that you can get your foot in the door to understand it.
Right.
Um, I feel like if you don't work in the events industry and feel like, yep, I don't work in the events industry, but I went to school and don't have any experience, I feel like you're missing out on learning everything that's a part of it. So I'm a research person. So and most wedding planners are very, very resourceful. That's why we're in this world, because we can, we can MacGyver something to make
that is
it
so
work.
you all day.
It is just, when the groomsman splits his pants right before their entry, you make it work, you make it happen, you fix it so that nobody sees it. So there's anything and everything that will come at you. And so I feel like if you had a little bit of background, to get yourself started, then, and it's okay not to jump in right into what you think you want to do. It's okay to learn processes before. And so that's probably one of my biggest pieces of advice.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So,
oh, sorry.
Is that my Presley Jane?
Yes. Do you want to come and say hi to Tracy?
Hi.
Hi, PJ. How are you?
Good.
This is PJ. You're going to be a future entrepreneur. I just feel it because of your parents. So anyway, Margie, just last question I think I'll ask you, in terms of failing forward, meaning, has there been sort of one, and it's hard because I know, we all make mistakes every day, but I'm just trying to think, is there like one sort of mistake that you've made that led to an incredible life lesson when it comes to you being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, hold on real quick. Nope, she's going in a different room. She has her phone on. Anyway.
This is what it looks like to be a working mother.
Yes. Working from home, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's all good.
I think that there's always lessons in any industry that you work. When it comes to the commercial cleaning side, there's always things that happen that you're like, I should have done this. It's hard to culminate into one type of a failure. You can have some big ones that have changed everything for the better. For us personally, that has turned out into a giant blessing. We did go through a business split and with another couple. And for us, it was at the time when we had our blessing baby. And so for us, it was a really deep dive into understanding what was important to us in our life. And so that's when we did some shifting and we did some changing and have now, been able to embark on the wedding industry. My husband's with the handyman stuff along with the commercials. So for us, that's been really good. As far as the wedding industry, I learned things every single wedding. What I would have, I should have, I'll look at my steps after a day of wedding. This last weekend, I put 20,000 steps in on Friday at a wedding.
Crazy.
And so then it's a reevaluation for me. Where could I have cut those steps by 25%? Because I was exhausted.
Right.
So, could I have prepped it a little bit better, to get people in certain places? Or is that just part of it, So it's always I am a big believer of, I will hear people say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I feel like in every situation it is different. And that if you're not looking at ways of improvement, then I feel like you're stagnant. So I feel like you need to keep improving, whether it may work for that situation,
right?
But for this situation, If you're not looking at figuring out how to make it better, faster, more efficient, then you're not doing your due diligence to make your processes better.
So many great nuggets, Margie.
Thank you.
Yes. So anyway, I want to wrap up, and here's what's cool to me. And I tell you this often, that you and Jeff are crazy, because
Yeah.
when I tell y'all the amount of time they spend working, I mean, they work hard. When I tell you they work hard, they work hard, and have been this way for as long as I've known them. And here's
play hard too.
Yeah, you do play hard. Yes, I do plan to go to Hawaii with you at some point.
Yeah. After all of this stuff, we're gonna go.
COVID, yes. But here's what's cool to me, Margie, is that you and Jeff are very skilled at things, and you kind of have, like you talked about, being resourceful, taking chaos and making it organized, and problem solving, and you're creative and all that stuff. And Jeff's like ridiculous with his construction skills and stuff. So it's just cool to me that you take your skills and your talents, and you figure out creative ways that you can, start a business that also helps your family. But the other thing that has really resonated with me during our conversation is how often you're talking about your priorities and your values and what you believe. And, that those things that are very important to you are so woven throughout your businesses. And, I think that's a really cool takeaway, is just, knowing who you are as a person, what's important to you, what's important to your family, if you have a family, or who's in your immediate circle, that's going to be affected by everything. So to me, that's just super cool. And, I've seen that sort of play out with what you all decide to do. So I just think that's super awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really important to us, because I think if it doesn't align, then your business is just fake. I think that's why we have so much passion for what we do, because we want to do it right. We want to do it well. When it comes to the wedding planning, it's a whole culmination of guest experience, along with, making sure that the bride and the groom are having the best day, that they'll look back on it and say, I wish we could do it again. That sort of thing. And with my husband, his is more of a physical, being able to see what he's created from the hard work, sweat and tears that goes into construction. So it's more of a visual look. But if it's not done right, or done well, or done half, then both of us know that we need to clean it up. And sometimes it happens where you're like, okay, I'm going to get through it. And this is what I'm going to do to fix it. But as long as you're continually growing, I think that's really, really important to drive that passion that you have.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, because I know that you're busy, and clearly PJ needs some time, but I give her a hug for me, because I miss her. We have to have a play date soon.
She would love that.
I know. She needs to come over and see my kitties.
Oh, careful.
But anyway, I want to go ahead and
like a really great word.
Yes. So I want to go ahead and close out our Girl Scouts at Home segment. So again, Margie, thank you so much for joining us today. You shared so many good tidbits and nuggets and a lot of good information. So thank you so much, and have a great day.